This is your daily market recap for Tuesday, April 18th, 2023. Let's go. Hey everyone, this is my channel to help investors and traders develop a probability-based mindset to succeed. Also try and keep friends informed of what's going on in the markets and the economy, and also a little real estate content as well. This is Dan Maxey at XP Realty, aka the Trading Agent, and this is your daily market recap for Tuesday, April 18th, 2023. Another choppy day during OPEX. Not surprised that anyone see the post about turnaround Tuesday. Feeling very turnaround-ish potentially. Now keep in mind, VIX getting down into the 16 levels is rather impressive, but it's OPEX, early part of the week as we've talked about. Typically you have part of the week up, part of the week down. Again, if you're not familiar, please check out the video, Back to Basics series about options expiration. Yeah, let's get into it. Again, if you're new to the channel, want to join the Discord room, please use the link in the description below. After hours, you got Netflix. I mean, their guidance is bad. Their expectations seem bad. I mean, I've said this for years that, especially from the top, like the streaming war is not good for Netflix. And at this point, their scale, whatever you want to talk about, again, I don't think it's sustainable that they're going to hold up. It's going to be like every other cable TV commodity kind of stuff like that. It just... competition breeds competition, which breeds lower prices, which breeds what? Lower margins, unsustainable up moves in forever. Because again, we've seen this play out in different sectors, but we'll keep an eye on it as long as it's below the range lows. And again, we'll talk about it when we get there. Just be aware. You got earnings. In the morning, you got ASML, Morgan Stanley. What was that? USB or UBS. I can't remember which one. I wrote down a bunch of stuff. But anyway, and the beige book tomorrow. So at this point, I'm not surprised the market's chopping around, but I don't think it's going to sustain. That's my opinion here. So anyway, keep an eye on things. Be safe. Be thoughtful. And yeah, let's get into it deeper. Follow on Twitter. Again, always trying to post what I think is relevant. I think this is very interesting. Again, we've talked about this, the slowing that is increasing quickly. Spot rates per mile, adjusted for inflation. Again, trucking costs. There's a lot of macro things that we've talked about. Again, watch previous recaps and reviews if you're unfamiliar. But just always trying to post what I think what I see on Twitter and a ton of the charts that we are interested in. We talked about, especially during the day, like watch some of these areas, SMH 20-day, IWM lagging again. And again, all the evidence that you need to see and pay attention to in the market. Because again, I think a lot of people get very tunnel visioned based on, well, today's this and this hour that and that and that. And it's like, man, I don't know what to tell y'all other than time is the hardest part of this. It feels like a matter of when, not if. Especially in the slaughter, I think that's going to come. Because again, a bear market isn't going to bottom with the VIX in the 38 and everybody happy. Bear markets bottom when everybody's distraught. Everyone gives up. I don't think we're there yet. It's going to be volatile. It's going to be a market that is not, going to bottom tomorrow, next week. It's going to take time. Again, follow on YouTube. Hit the like button, subscribe. Do be aware that we do a ton of live chats, 2 or 3 a week. Very interesting for newer folks. Or if you're involved, just get involved, ask questions. So please hit the notification bells. And on that note, check out also too, the Back to Basics website, www.thetradingagent.com. There's a ton of stuff on here. I'm trying to keep people informed. Please sign up. Feel free to sign up below at the end. And the Marcus account, that's a good deal. 4.9% right now, if you're not familiar. Yeah, where's the newsletter? Here you go, subscribe. And sent out something today about trading, trying to keep people informed what we see what's going on. Anyway, let's get into it. Fed fund futures, let's look at what's going on. Oh, 83% Fed rate hike, likely when? Coming up in May. Talk of a Fed cut not happening. I've said this over and over and over and over and over and over and over. What? The Feds, they've got to stamp out inflation. They got to do what they got to do to regain control of the dollar, get money to roll into the treasuries, in my opinion. They're going to try to seem more fiscally responsible than the rest of the world. On that note, just kind of is what it is at this point. Bitcoin, chopping up here, major level. Major level. If you're not familiar, just keep an eye on it. Oil, chopping around, same thing, major level. A lot of things at major inflection points. That's kind of the theme of the day. Natural gas, popping, not surprised. Again, it's going to be choppy. People are talking about buying it. I'm like, I just think I'm going to wait for the UNG to reverse split before I have any interest in it. Because, again, natural gas can be sloppy and choppy. Just keep that in mind. Just be thoughtful. On that note, let's get into the dollar. What do we talk about? Watching what happens when it filled this gap again. Not really that impressed with gaps on the dollar because look, they're everywhere. But we held, we popped. Now it has to get over the 20-day. Today's action, light volume pullback, doesn't really tell you too much. Just keep an eye on it. Get over the 20-day. TLT holding range lows. Remember, if the TLT spikes, is that going to show the economy slowing, falling hard? Or if the rates go higher, is the market going to like it? Kind of, we're at this inflection point. Worth eyeing very closely. The VIX, I mean, I'm amazed. I am absolutely mind-boggled that they're getting this down here. But look what we got to the 16 range. If you're not familiar with this area, and we doji today. Doji indecision at inflection points, pretty typical. Now again, we've talked about last couple days getting down here. Could it get sticky with OPEX? Seems likely. And now you doji on a turnaround Tuesday potentially. Ay caramba, I would keep an eye on again. I mean, I think a lot of people are doing this, playing this game in their mind that they don't realize, like at the highs, everything seems bullish. At the lows, everything's going to seem bearish. And can you have the ability to do the hard thing, whether it's taking profits, reversing, or really realizing, hey, we're in a bear market. SPY, we'll see. I mean, I get a lot of frustration. I get a lot of people talking. I'm like, I get it. This is frustrating, right? We talked about shorting up here, novice gap, trap, rallies back, making a lower high during OPEX. These candles are tough to know. You break out, but watch the levels now. Again, when you zoom out, and we've said this is where I feel like I'm a broken record. People hit me up on Twitter, social media, like, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. I'm like, my time frame is the monthly. I'm looking at the 20-month like a gift as it's rolling. Again, once you get under the 20-month, the bear market is confirmed. Now you're rolling up to it. Ooh, feels so tempting. Same thing with the Qs, right? So tempting, so tempting. Why wouldn't you short here with tight risk parameters? Today's candle opens up, closes at the lows, but still in this 317, 318. Tough to know. Tough days. IWM, and touches up in this 179 zone. I'm talking about it for like weeks. Watch what happens gets up here. If rejects, and rejects again. Rejects again. Don't know what else to say. DIA, J&J, and all. There's some Dow names. Goldman flopping all over the place. Chopping. Can't really, I don't really know what to say at this point. Zagold. Here you go. Holding the 20-day said, hey, this feels very ominous, but watch the 20-day. If it holds the 20-day, you're good if you're a bull. If it breaks below it, you're going to have some down to consolidation. Silva. Hi-ho, silver away. Did not like the previous 2-day candles, but what did we say? Watch the 23 area. Seems to be holding it for now. 20-day, this 22 area, I feel like at some point going to test. GDX, man, I feel like a broken record. Hey, watch out. Novice gap traps. I don't like this candle. If you're a bull, you cannot like today's action because you want it to close up. Look at you filled the gap and you close near the low of the day. It's tough. That is tough right there. Same thing with the GDX. I couldn't even feel it. Are miners leading down? It feels like it. AG again. We love that they got rid of their guidance, said they're not going to be producing anymore. We talked about probably a novice gap trap. Rallies up to the 100, 200-day trend line. I'm letting let those come in. AEM holding up, chopping. Same thing. Long wick. Can't really like that action. That's not technically looks good. Newmont's been lagging. Another big issue, right? Newmont, right? Under the 20-day, not even close to the highs in January. PAAS gets up to the range highs. Man, that's just breaks the 20-day. Technically, just does not look good. All right, let's get into tech. Taiwan Semi. Talked about this lagging's got earnings on Thursday morning. People are super bullish, and they're like, oh, at the earnings at bottom, this, and I'm like, stock went from 59 up to 100 and basically 100. That price in. I still think there's massive risk, headline risk for this thing. And again, I think semis, as we talked about, why they go lower. They become a commodity. Now companies are making their own chips. It's this chip cycle. It's just, chip cycle is just harsh. It's harsh for chips. Micron pops up today, closes at the low day. Some folks were making it, noticing that. I'm like, yeah, that does not look good. AMD, NVIDIA's up, gets a crazy upgrade, up, closes at the lows of the day. NVIDIA, this candle looks a little ominous. Again, was it HSBC downgraded the stock at 130, in December and put a price target at 135. It clearly went much higher. Now they're upgrading the stock at the highs, giving it a 335 price target. Wow. Talk about Clowns. Upgrading at the highs, downgrading at the lows. Even brokerages are stupid. Tried to warn people that it feels like a buddy pass. I know it's been frustrating since March, but keep an eye on it. That could be the novice gap trap, game over. Intel, we've warned people, hey, it hit the channel highs, backing off. Again, all these semis popped up, closed at the lows. SMH got up in the 255s. 20 days, like, oh, it's going to go under the 20-day. Just keep an eye on it. Adobes, 20-day holding it. Apple, rather confusing, in my opinion, that this is holding up, but hey, they announced that they're going to offer savings accounts. Apple Bank, I mean, whatever. I mean, this is a joke in my opinion, but people take it as bullish. I get it. I mean, I absolutely get it. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it, right? Just keep an eye on it, because it's that trend line. It's that VAP zone. Is it going to break out? It's hard to believe. It's hard to believe such, but seeing crazier things. And again, don't be surprised. It could bear trap too. It could pop up and then flop. Amazon chopping. Sloppy. CRM. Oh, hey there. Netflix 325 after hours. I think I just got the email. A few shares just went through. Short. CRM double top. Keep an eye on it. Guggenheim lagging. Pops, flops, 20-day. Keep an eye on it. Meta. Is it done? Are we done yet? I mean, it's hard to say, right? I mean, it's really hard to say. I mean, I've gone on rants why I think this company is absolute trash. Keep an eye on it. Absolutely keep an eye on it. Because again, I mean, sometimes you just exhaust naturally and you just go, and the candles just get smaller and it gets tighter and tighter and then it dies. That's always in the possibility in my mind. Microsoft pops up again, 290s, comes right back. Cannot get through it. Now, could it do it on earnings? I mean, these are all the questions you have to ask in your mind. Do you want to hold through earnings? Are you shorting tech? Are you going to do short techs through ATFs? I don't know. Be careful. NDAQ. They're trying to say they're going to start pushing crypto. Okay. All right, these candles are looking a little ominous. Keep an eye on it. MicroStrategy bounced back today with the crypto. Bounce back, closed at the lows, trying to fill the gap. Keep an eye on it. Netflix after hours at 327. Got a few shares short, nothing crazy. At 325 after hours. Again, watching this area down here. Not surprised. Again, if we could get to 325, 327 after hours, I'd be watching that. 20-day is key. Their guidance is absolutely dog crap, in my opinion. But that's the thing. It's all subject to interpretation, because you can say, well, is the worst behind us? Can they do better? I mean, a lot of people are getting excited about the stock. Keep in mind, it literally was trading at, like, what, 160s? Gets up to 370s, 380s. Now it's back up in the 320s. Bullish? I don't know. When you zoom out, again, I look at the monthly, I go, ay, caramba. Thing looks like dead money. This zone, yeah, you got into it. Upside. I'm on back now, you hear? Keep an eye on it. Roadblocks, we talked about they're going to stop giving guidance. Typically, the market doesn't like that. Gaps down, chopping. Tough to know near term. Probably oversold, but we'll see. Tesla coming into earnings. Was it tomorrow after the close, right? Or is it Thursday? When is Tesla earnings? Was it even is it this week? Whatever. I thought I had it written down on my notes, but I must have missed it. Sometimes I miss those things. I'll go back and double check or leave a comment below. Chopping, slopping. I mean, people, this is the thing. I was like having this debate with this. Seems like a bot on StockTwits, and he's talking about, the market's meant to be bought and hold, which again, no one's going to argue long term, but individual stock names, clearly this guy's been holding Tesla since the 400s and is frustrated because again, I don't believe, or not believe, the evidence does not suggest that continuation of up moves happen forever for every stock. Keep in mind, think about what stocks were in the Dow in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Are they still there? Those were the top names. No. Leadership changes, fundamentals change, momentum changes, and honestly, again, I'm not a fundamental guy, but I know just the law of large numbers. The bigger you get, the more competition you bring on, and they do not have any resistance to entry players to get into the electric car building, whatever you want to call it, space. 20-day, just keep an eye on it, sloppy chopping. Yeah, that's, again, in my mind, and I've said this many times, I think tech is by far the best short. X, here you go. Gets over the range. All right, keep an eye on it. 150-day all coming down together. Got that gap there at 27. I would watch how it reacts there. New call, come on. Chopping, slopping. Earnings are coming up here shortly. Keep an eye on it. Letter, Caterpillar. Meow. Talked about this chopping here. Doesn't really look that great. VALE, dollar down, but VALE barely pops. Okay, better hold a 20-day. I mean, these things have all just been lagging. Arrow has just been crazy, wild, volatile. Like yesterday looked bearish. Then it rallies up to new highs. I mean, this is a name that I, have warned people about, like the volatility on it, but it's worth watching. That's why I pull it up every day. Is it bullish during OPEX? Could it be a top during OPEX, right? Right? Remember when it was down here? Talked about that being the capitulation potentially. Well, now it's up here, but you've got this candle, right? You're making slightly higher highs. That's tough to know for shizzle, right? Keep an eye on it. CCJ. I mean, again, everyone loves uranium long-term, but this is the thing. Will the baby get thrown out in the bathwater? That's what feels very obvious to me with commodities at some point. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week. When they do pull back, they'll give you opportunities. You go 50-day, backs off. CF, a lot of the ag names. I guess there was some deal with some of the agricultural stuff in Europe. I mean, I said watch. I said I would be taking profits on these pops. We talked about 67. Said maybe the 50-day. Well, this is why sometimes, and a lot of people get real frustrated when we say, oh, you get in early, get out early sometimes. Because this kind of, and again, I could do a rant on the next 20 minutes just looking at CF going, well, if you waited for the 50-day and you did not take any profits and this thing doesn't rally, you got screwed over because you were trying to play it perfectly, right? You're going, oh, I got to wait for 79. And then boom, it's at 74 with the blink of the eye, and you missed out on selling at the highs. Mosaic, same kind of thing. Chopping around. NTR, they all look very similar, right? Very similar. Here you go. But NTR, and this is the thing, it's been lagging, but it just doesn't really look that good. AA was up a buck and change. Saw that today. All right. Keep an eye on this. Because again, I mean, I'd watch this 42 to 43 area. Financials chopping around. Not surprised, holding up. I mean, they've got some more banks coming. Doji, little quiet. JP Morgan, I am itching to short this thing. I really thought today was going to be it, but it's like, okay. And then once it held up, because there was a doji earlier posted it, I'm like, all right, does it need to fill the gap? Because this feels like a trap to me. And people are like, oh, it's a professional gap at start. I'm like, no. I personally think that their net interest margin, all their best quarters with that kind of revenue are peaking. It's only going to get tougher as they lend less and have to pay out more to keep money. Because that's the thing. Just Apple today announcing that they're going to pay 4.15%. What does that have to tell? What does that tell you about what's changing in the market? Like, there's going to be lots of places to put your money safely for higher yields, and people are not going to, and that's where competition for money comes. People are like, oh, it's high cash level. And it's like, yeah, well, guess what? Remember, when cash levels have been high and high interest rates, it makes sense. Right? People don't need to take all this risk in the market. If they know they need 5% on their money to make a live, to feel comfortable, they're going to do that. Keep an eye on JP Morgan. Morgan Stanley, same kind of thing, chopping. Not surprised. I mean, just watch these levels in the 90s. Goldman, gaps down, rallies back. Market holds. All right, watch. We said 200-day, 50-day, and here's again, example. If you held through earnings and you were like, oh, I'm going to wait and see what happens. No guarantees. XBI, this one got up to the 200-day today. Was watching. I'm like, I hope people who are thinking about shorting, because now you're in the zone, which makes sense to me. Just define your risk, have stops, be thoughtful. HYG, again, we like to look at this occasionally. Oh man, Netflix at 328 after hours. Okay, I'll keep an eye on it. Pop, chop, flop, not confirming in my opinion. Tan, solar, again, the news from Japan, all the junk out there in my opinion. All right, well, solar's always going to be around, but it's not the future of energy in my opinion for sustainability, right? Because you just don't always have the sun and the weather changes. I mean, you got to clean those things. I mean, they're a pain in the butt, but they're also a good source. But are they the future? Again, watch what happens, because in a recession, when oil gets smoked and commodity prices come down, at some point, what happens, right? People, I mean, I've seen First Solar, I talked about it, have $100 down months. Unreal. Here you go. ENPH, we talked about coming into the 229, 230. Keep an eye on it. Sedgerton, not surprised. Bouncing with the whole thing. This area, it's really choppy. I think if you see it in 338 plus, that would be the short. First Solar holding up. Pops, chops, just watch the trend line, watch the 220s. Keep it simple. We'll end it on oil and gas. Oil. Good old oil. 200-day. Again, OPEC doesn't cut 1.5 billion barrels or 5 million barrels because all is good. Just keep that in mind. Just absolutely keep that in mind. Oh, crap. Oh, looks like I got stopped out on my Netflix short. Oh, well. Keep an eye on that for the... Man, I almost like want to cut this off and just start trading it. But we'll watch it because I imagine they're having their conference call and they're doing what most CEOs, most management does through an earnings announcement. Everything is awesome. UNG. So people are talking about buying it. I'm like, all right. I mean, you're grown-ups here. Define your risk. I personally am going to wait for the reverse split. But at this point, you know, we've talked about it. You can define your risk. People say it's a professional gap. Okay, there's a lot of gaps in UNG. Keep that in mind. Is this the gap that starts the move? I mean, I've said this 1,000 times. I think it's probably going to chop out, in my opinion. But keep in mind, like the UNG, decay. XOP warned about what? All the moving averages come together. Gotta want to hold the 130 in the 50-day. I just keep it as simple. ExxonMobil was popping today, leading the market up. Closes right near the monthly trend line. Keep an eye on it, right? Occidental. Man, this thing has just been lagging. The Buffett's favorite. The buffet's favorite, right? 20-day. Keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on it. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by Netflix. EQT, chopping. Chop. PXD, holding up. Chopping. 200-day. And it with Flex LNG. Again, like this name, longer term on a major pullback. I think there's going to be a lot of natural gas exported at some point because it is cheap and the U.S. has tons of it. So watch the levels. Again, if you are trading from the perspective of today, even next hour, you know, again, people like, the market makers are really great at tricking people to do the wrong things at the wrong time. And I've warned people of this constantly. You got to have your stops, just like Netflix here. Short at 325, popped off 5 points. Whatever. 50 shares, not the end of the world. Not great, though, either, but that's the reality. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. Right? You just don't know. But when, how this all plays out, I've said this ultimately again with the markets. It's very obvious. The market's not going to bottom until everyone's given up. And during bear market rallies, they convince people to what? Buy and hold. Their goal is not to get traders to buy the market and then just flip it. Their goal is to make you feel like what? That absolutely without a doubt, the market's going to go higher because they need you to hold, me, you, whatever, retail, to hold all the way through the down moves. Because when they start, they're going to look like the last couple of weeks of chop, and it's going to be like, oh, well, whatever. It's all good. Nothing, no problem here. Let's just hold through it. It always goes higher. Dips get bought. BT MFD, bro. And that's just how it plays out. And this is the thing. You know, I don't know how many people are new to the channel, but we've identified all of the major inflection points. But this has been by far the choppiest and sloppiest, which, all right, that's part of the game. Like if you traded from last year, you saw. And again, this is not about ego. This is more about like the evidence. I've seen choppy, sloppy markets. Now, define your risk. Could we be wrong? Could something pop the market up before they flush it? Possible. It's always possible. Like that's the problem here. It's like you don't know if it's going to be like the CF where it just closes at the highs and then bam, or it's going to be a long wick up and then a flop. You just don't know. And so people who try to, again, I always laugh against StockTwits or FinTwit, promising certainty, promising without a doubt, this is how it has to play out. All right, well, that as much as we would like to say that we know for sure, we always have to have in the back of our mind we don't. Because if you start believing your own hype and all your own BS, all it takes is one massive mistake, especially if you're playing options. Like if you have way too big of an options account versus your stock trading account, maybe your account's too small and you're starting, well, trading options, you got to be quick, you got to be tactile. But if you're playing for the swing, define your risk, define your risk, define your risk. All right, if you have any questions, please reach out. Discord room, Twitter, leave a comment below. I really appreciate the comments and the videos if you listen this far. And again, be safe out there. It is options expiration, it is earnings, and you've got what? a ton of things coming down the pipe. It's not going to be as simple as people like to say. Because again, Fed's not next week, but May 3rd. I mean, look at the Fed fund rates. I mean, it looks like they're going to be raising interest rates. Again, you have to always keep in mind, like Fed interest rate hikes do what? They have a delayed response. Are things really going to get better? Like Bank of America today trying to say like, hey, we're going to have a soft recession. It's like, I have a hard time believing that, especially when you are pulling liquidity out of off your balance sheet, trying to reestablish yourself as a reserve currency by sustainability with continuing to do what? Be fiscally responsible. Joke. But what does that mean, right? Raising interest rates, trying to kill inflation versus some of the other countries who are now doing what? They're waving the light flag saying, oh, it's over. We think we're going to pause. So, all right. Talk to you guys and gals later. Have a great night. Peace. Hey, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, stop by the Discord room. A link is in the description below. Also, if you'd like to help support more free content, the PayPal link is in the description as well. I appreciate your continued support of the channel.